when it comes to heartbreak in general, I feel like a big piece of it comes from loving the thought of somebody more than loving the actual person, the memories you made with them. I feel like in some cases, it comes from the what ifs and the possible scenarios and whatnot of what could have been. But that's a big part of why why I've been in the spot that I've been in. I'm always thinking about what could have happened and where things could have ended up in my situation. I don't know, I feel like I'm always wondering about what would have happened if I had just sent that message, if I had reached out one more time. Like, what results would that have gotten me? It would have done one of two things. It would have either A, it would have given me the same result as last time, as my second time messaging her. Or the second option, it would have taught me a lesson. And those lessons are the ones that teach you the most in life. Well, at least about you and your heartbreaks and whatnot. And I feel like that 50-50 possibility, it's really threatening, honestly. It's really, I don't know how to describe it, but it's so in your face in a way. Because you don't know what'll happen. It's so unknown. And that unknown is scary. And it's always circling back to that unknown and the what ifs of that scenario and the things that could happen. What would have happened if I'd messaged her? What would have happened if I said, hey, one more time? Probably nothing this time around. But it's always wondering. Because you might think one thing, and then something else might be the actual scenario. It's not fun to think about. And I don't know. I guess my main point for today that I'm going to really be talking about is how loving the idea of someone is so much more dangerous than loving the actual person. Because if you love the idea of someone, you make up a version of them in your head that probably wasn't actually real. You think of all these things that happened in your mind, that you wanted to happen in your mind, but never actually happened in the first place. As versus the things that actually did happen and the things you misinterpreted or took out of context and made them into something else. I don't know. Relationships are a scary thing, I guess. That's the hardest part about life, I feel like. My dad and I were talking about this, actually. We're talking about how, just in general, in life, the relationships you make with others is probably the hardest part of it. And I couldn't agree with that more. Because accepting somebody is gone once they've left is the shittiest scenario ever. And it happens all the time. Like, it's normal. Unfortunately, it's a part of life. It's the one thing growing up they don't really tell you that's going to happen in your life. Well, my parents never told me that, at least. Which I feel like, in a way, is part of why I'm the way I am. Because I've just never understood as much as I like to why people leave. And for me, my turnover for people in the past 2 years, actually, I feel like it's been so high. I've never understood why either. It's something I'm still trying to figure out. And maybe one day, heck, maybe in a future video, I'll have it figured out. It's something I still think about all the time. And I can come up with all these possible scenarios as to why that's the case, but I'm never really going to know. Until God knows when. Maybe I'll figure it out, maybe I won't. Maybe it's something within me that I have to figure out. Maybe something's wrong with me. Or it's the people that I'm going after or putting myself around. And again, in a way that circles back to me, like, it circles back to me because I'm repeating the same things and making the same mistakes over and over again. And that's what you call insanity. Expecting a different result, doing the same thing over and over again. Expecting something different to happen. So me out here going over, chasing these people that in the end are going to treat me the same way. But each time me thinking, oh, this person's not going to do that. That was just that person. That was only this person or whoever it is that did or said something to me. Just thinking it won't be different. Or that it will be. And it never is. Not for me, at least. I'm not sure what it is, either, about me that makes this the case. But I feel it because of that high turnover rate. Whenever someone does stick around for longer, and it becomes a romantically involved situation, I always have a harder time moving on. In the past, I don't think I did as much. With my first love, yeah, I mean, as expected, that was the case. But after that, not really, no. Until recently. Like I mentioned in the last video I made, a grand total 8 months was how long I was on that. And that 8 months is still continuing. It's crazy how your perception of somebody and who they are can entirely be made up of what you made them to be. Your idea and your thought of them. What they might actually not be. And you don't really see the reality of that until it's too late. And you might tell yourself that, but that's not really them. But the question is, do you believe that? And I don't really feel like a lot of people who've been in my situation do. Or people who are currently in my situation do. It's complicated that we as people tend to make the same mistake over and over again. Thinking, oh yeah, just because I saw this person this way means that it's actually who they are. They're not a bad person. They have no qualities. When in reality, you could have been looking over them the whole time. So it's important when you're talking to somebody or meeting somebody and whatnot, you really have to get a better understanding for them. You really have to be around them enough, and you have to catch on to certain things and just truly actually get a feel for them. Because if you don't, certain things about that person will turn into different things in your mind. And you'll see them as somebody they're not. And then you'll think you're in love with them, but you're not actually in love with them at all. You're in love with a totally different person. You're in love with your imagination. It almost makes you sound like you're schizophrenic in a way. It's kind of crazy thing to say, but it's true. And it's sad it's the case. You thought you were madly in love with this person, but they don't exist. They were never real in the first place. So I guess my takeaway this time is distinguish the difference between the person in front of you that you think you love and like, between your mind and what you've made of them and what you've made of that person. Because what you see might not exist there in that person. Those qualities you think that person has, that person might not have at all. That's all I have for today. Stay blessed.